Scotty, Joey Moss, Bad Boy Gaming, and in today's video, we are gonna discuss a new commander deck, Secret Lair commander deck called 20 Ways to Win. We're gonna take a deep dive into every card that says you win the game on it. At this point, this is what we know so far. We have Approach of the Second Sun, Biovisionary, Feldar Sovereign, so we're dealing with some life gain kind of builds. Go Shinte of Life's Origin, Liliana's Contract, Mayal's Area. Am I saying that right? I don't know. Soul Ring's in here, and Test of Endurance. So just taking a look at these cards right now, we have two cards that deal with life gain, Test of Endurance and Feldar Sovereign. The Goshanti makes me believe we're going to see Gates return. If that's the case, we are going to see Maze's End. Liliana's Contract tells me demons. Biovisionary tells us copies. Keep in mind, reducing your opponent's life total to 0 is going to be one of those conditions. Also, dealing 21 commander damage. Here's Maze's End. Return this land to its owner's hand. Search your library for a gate card, put on the battlefield, and shuffle. If you control 10 or more gates with different names, you win the game. You need to deal with a bunch of different colors, so what better than gates? Happily Ever After enters the battlefield. Each player gains 5 life and draws a card. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 5 colors among permanents you control, there are 6 or more card types among permanents you control, and or cards in your graveyard, and your life total is greater than or equal to your starting life total, you win the game. I am 99.9% certain this is definitely going to be in the new commander deck. Battle of Wits. This one might be a stretch. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 200 or more cards in your library, you win the game. Something tells me Wizards is not going to want to print for a Secret Lair a 200 card deck just to form around this one card. An additional 100 cards just for Battle of Wits, you know? No, I highly doubt we're gonna see Battle of Wits, unfortunately. Hedron Alignment. You guys tell me which other cards may fit into you win the game strategy, you know, other than cards that say you win the game on it. Hedron Alignment, Hexproof. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may reveal your hand. If you do, you win the game if you own a card named Hedron Alignment in exile, in your hand, in your graveyard, and on the battlefield. So this one might be tough. I'm sure we're going to deal with copies, cards that copy, you know, artifacts, cards that copy a permanent, but I don't know how this one exactly would line up. I think it might take a bit too much effort for this card to slot into their deck. Helix Pinnacle. Tap X, put X tower counters on Helix Pinnacle. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 100 or more tower counters on Helix Pinnacle, you win the game. So most likely we're going to deal with stuff that's going to be doubling counters. Maybe some counter-centric, you know, strategy. If they included Helix Pinnacle. I think they will. I think it's a pretty sure bet. Plus right now it's sitting at about $7. Pinnacle's been dropping steadily for a minute. All right, so may or may not see Helix Pinnacle. Blightsteel Colossus. Now, it does not say you win the game on it, but what it does do is end up winning you the game with Infect. Even in Commander with Infect, need to deal 10 Infect damage, I guess, to your opponent. So anything beyond that, your opponent loses. And Trample Infect, indestructible. He's an 11/11. He can get the job done. He's also got a pretty hefty price tag, which that may or may not be means for Wizards to include this card. And we also don't know the price of the new deck yet either. Could be $100, could be $150, could be $200. We don't know. This card does not say you win you the game, but I think there's a good probability this will be in the new deck. Angel of Grace, a 5-drop. It is a cheap card, 50 cents. It's got flash, flying, and when Angel of Grace enters the battlefield until end of turn, damage that would reduce your life total to less than 1 reduces it to 1 instead. That's important, that part of the text right there, because near-death experience would go great with that. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have exactly 1 life, you win the game. So getting your life to 1, what better way than with Angel of Grace? Coalition Victory, sitting at only $1.69 right now. You win the game if you control a land of each basic land type and a creature of each color. Well, smack me in the face and call me Samson. We're running 5 colors. This much is clear. Coalition Victory, very high on the list to be in this new deck. Gallifrey Stands. When Gallifrey Stand enters the battlefield, return all doctor cards from your graveyard to your hand. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a doctor creature card from your hand on the battlefield. Then if there are 13 or more doctors, you win the game. I highly doubt we're going to see this one, but we are going to be dealing with copies, but I doubt Wizards is going to throw a bunch of doctor cards from Doctor Who in this new Commander deck. Here's one I'm dying to see. Mortal Kombat, but more so I want to see the Secret Lair Mortal Kombat. We've seen a lot of other Secret Lairs, but where's Mortal Kombat? Anyway, Mortal Kombat's a 4-drop enchantment, which would go good. We like enchantments. At the beginning of your upkeep, if 20 or more creature cards are in your graveyard, you win the game. Maybe, this might be. They would have to put a lot of creature cards into this deck, you know? And there's only so many slots to fill. So this is a big maybe. Celestial Convergence. This card's only $1. Well, it comes into play with 7 counters on it, omen counters. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove an omen counter from Celestial Convergence. If there are no omen counters on Celestial Convergence, the player with the highest life total wins the game. If 2 or more players are tied for highest life total, the game is a draw. Only thing I see that may keep Wizards from putting this in here is that last part where it says the game is a draw. This is the only printing of it, was in Prophecy, probably for a good reason. So we may not see this card. Epic Struggle, welcome aboard. It's sitting around $5 right now. I'm gonna go 99% positive you're gonna see Epic Struggle appear in the new deck. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 20 or more creatures, you win the game. And it's an enchantment. Makes sense to me. Now we're on to Central Elevator, Promising Stairs. This card is recently printed to begin with, but also it deals with room. I know our decks kind of like enchantments, returning an enchantment from our graveyard with Origins, but is that what they're going to try to do? Because we're most likely going to have to make way for shrines also. Baron of Glory. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control no permanents other than Baron Glory and have no cards in hand, you win the game. This just seems a bit too narrow for what we're trying to do. We'd have to basically nuke our entire board, or just nuke everything, you know? I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not saying there won't be any board wipes, but I'm saying we're probably not going to see Baron Glory from Future Sight. Now we're on to Luck Bobblehead. This is a big maybe, because yes, it's Universes Beyond Fallout. It would most likely come back with different kind of art, not the Fallout art. Bobblehead reads, add 1 mana of any color. That slots into our 5-color deck rather well. For 1, tap, roll X 6-sided dice, where X is the number of bobbleheads you control. Create a tap treasure token for each even result. If you rolled 6 exactly 7 times, you win the game. This is a very narrow win con, but with the color kind of fixing, you know, maybe we'll see it. Amulet of Kaz. Unfortunately, it's on the reserve list, and there's a whole lot of text on this. You're flipping coins, you're anteing. Yeah, you're just not going to see this one. But I had to include it in the video just because it does say win the game on it. Hellkite Tyrant from Gatecrash. Always liked this card, man. 6-drop. Flying and trample. Whenever Hellkite Tyrant deals combat damage to a player, gain control of all artifacts that player controls. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 20 or more artifacts, you win the game. There's a big chance this is going to be in the you win the game deck. It just slots in too perfectly. And the price is sitting around $4. Well, we'll find out soon enough. Azor's Electors reads, at the beginning of your upkeep, put a filibuster counter on Azor's. Then if Azor's has 5 or more filibuster counters on it, you win the game. Whenever a source deals damage to you, remove a filibuster counter from Azor. This is a good chance, I'd say 50-50 chance that Wizards would throw this in here. Card's sitting at only 34 cents currently. And it's just, the work's already done for them. Just smack it in the deck. Maybe. Simic Ascendancy. I'm going to go with, does a bear crap in the woods? This is most likely going to be in the deck. Simic Ascendancy for 3, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on a creature you control, put that many growth counters on Simic Ascendancy. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Simic Ascendancy has 20 or more growth counters on it, you win the game. We're probably going to go the counter route. I bet we do it. We're going to see some doubling. Are we going to see doubling season? Probably not doubling season, but we most likely will see Simic Ascendancy. Mechanized Reproduction. I think Mechanized Reproduction is almost a deck giveaway. This will be in the deck because it just fits too well. Enchant artifact you control at the beginning of your upkeep. Create a token that's a copy of enchanted artifact. Then if you control 8 or more artifacts with the same name as one another, you win the game. I already know we're going to see stuff that says copy target creature or copy target spell or whatever the case may be. This card just would fit in too well. We're probably going to see this whole double encounter thing. With Chance Encounter, coin flips. They just had a big coin flip deck not too long ago, but Chance Encounter was not in that deck. So maybe we do see Chance Encounter. Good possibility. It's also an enchantment. Triskaidekaphile. You have no maximum hand size. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have exactly 13 cards in your hand, you win the game. For 4, draw a card. This is a good possibility that we'll see this card. Maybe. Halo Fountain. Card is now approaching $8 or $9. I think Halo Fountain has a really good chance of being in the deck. Untap a tapped creature you control. Create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token for 1 white. For 2 white, untap 2 tapped creatures you control. Draw a card. And for 5, untap 15 tapped creatures you control, you win the game. This would be really good with the other card where you get 20 creatures, you win the game, but this one will just win it faster. Let's just do 15 instead of getting 20 creatures out. Good possibility that we see Halo Fountain. I will push all my chips onto the table that we will see Revel of Riches get the reprint in the new deck. And reason being, whenever a creature an opponent control dies, create a colorless treasure artifact token with sacrifice artifact at 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. We want to be doing that. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 10 or more treasures, you win the game. And it's also an enchantment. Yeah, I'm all in. Revel in Riches. And it's also about almost $16 now. Toad. I think that's highly likely. I know it was just printed in Bloomborough, but I think it's highly likely we could see this make the deck. Your maximum hand size is 20. Whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures, put a +1/+1 counter on 20 Toad. I like saying that. 20 Toad. And draw a card. Whenever 20 Toad attacks, you win the game if there are 20 or more counters on it, or you have 20 or more cards in hand. Good possibility. What happens when it blends with the other card? And, one that reads, you have no maximum hand size. Would that, if that comes in after this comes in, would that oversee this ability? Someone explain to me, break that down for me. I'm not a judge, I don't know, and I never had to run into that problem. But yeah, 20 Toad. Very likely could see a reprint already. And the card price is doing nothing but going up. Wizards loves to reprint cards when they start spiking. Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. Now let's say we do go that self-mill route. Because of Origins, doing what it does, wanting to getting enchantments from the graveyard back onto the battlefield, it's a possibility. Because if we self-mill, then we can just grab what we need along the way to our win, right? If you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. +1, target player puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard. Draw a card. Draw 7 cards. Then, if your library has no cards in it, you win the game. So, this kind of would work. If they're going to do another one of these cards, win the game outright, Jace, Wielder Mysteries just might make the deck. Speaking of milling yourself, Thassa's Oracle arrives. But something tells me, it just got the reprint Mystery Booster too. I kind of highly doubt, unless they really want this card to drop down to $5, I kind of doubt they're going to put it in the new deck. But when Thassa's Oracle enters the battlefield, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is your devotion to blue. We're really not going the whole devotion route. Put up to 1 of them on top of your library and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If X is greater than or equal to the number of cards in your library, you win the game. If that is the case, then we might just see Laboratory Maniac as well. If we're doing this whole self-mill thing, see Jace, see Thassa, see Laboratory Maniac, which says if you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. Again, they'd have to really go that route. Most likely going to be dealing with counters, man. And if we are dealing with counters, then we're probably going to see Darksteel Reactor. It's at $18 and has never been reprinted. It is indestructible. It's a 4-drop. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a charge counter on Darksteel Reactor. When Darksteel Reactor has 20 or more charge counters on it, you win the game. Emz's Assassin Lord. This is probably unlikely because it's narrow. It's assassins, you know. Other assassins you control get +1/+1. Whenever a player loses the game, if they were attacked this turn by an assassin you controlled, you win the game. For this to fit in, they'd have to do a whole thing with Changlings or go the straight assassin route, and I kind of just doubt we're going to see that. I'm going to cover cards that don't say you win the game on them, but they say you basically can't lose the game and your opponents can't win the game. And that's starting off as Getting of the Trials, which would go well with Approach of the Second Sun. So until your next turn, prevent all damage target permanent would deal. For 0 until end of turn, Getting of the Trials becomes a 4/4 human soldier. Creature with indestructible that's still a planeswalker. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to him this turn. And 0, you get an emblem with as long as you control a Gideon planeswalker, you can't lose the game and your opponents can't win the game. Will he appear? Maybe. Herald of Eternal Dawn. Wow, the price is going down. Looks like I may be wrong. It bottomed at about 2, and it looks like it might just start climbing back up. We shall see. I think I said this card would be $4 or $5 in 6 weeks. We'll see. So Flash Flying, you can't lose the game, and your opponents can't win the game. It's that simple. Will we see it? I do not know, but what I do know is we have Platinum Angel, which does the same thing. Sitting at $5 now. Wow, the mighty have fallen. Card at one point was like $25. Unbelievable. Cloud Steel Kirin. Flying, equipped creature has flying, and you can't lose the game, and your opponents can't win the game. Might see something like this slide in there. Princess Twilight Sparkle. This is a card, and this is an expensive card, $180. I used to own one. Other alicorns, horses, Pegasi, ponies, and unicorns you control get +1/+1. And then for 5, if you control Applejack, Fluttershy, Pinkie Pie, Rainbow Dash, and Rarity. Rarity, every pony wins the game. Every pony would win the game. That's crazy. If you ever wanted to get your hands on this, there's the Galloping box set. Now over $319. When this first dropped, I paid $49.99 for it. That's like a 600% increase. I have a strong suspicion we are going to see Abyssal Persecutor because he's a demon. Liliana's contract likes demons. Am I right? So for 4, Flying Trample, you can't win the game and your opponents can't lose the game. I think this would go perfectly into the Commander Brew. Book of Exalted Deeds is a big maybe, man, because at the beginning of your end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, create a 3/3 white angel creature token with flying. We already know we want to be gaining life in this quote-unquote shrine deck. Well, this would do just that. Also, it's giving us a 3/3 creature, which would be another reason why it could slot into the deck. We want creatures if we're going some of these win con routes. For 3, exile the Book of Exalted Deeds, put an enlightened counter on target angel. It gains, you can't lose the game, and your opponents can't win the game. Activate only as a sorcery. This is a big maybe for Exalted Deeds. It is 3 of one color. That could be the thing keeping it out, but it's a big possibility. Another one, it does say the words win the game on it. All creatures gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Players gain hexproof until end of turn. Players can't lose life this turn, and players can't lose the game or win the game this turn. This is just a big stall. I kind of doubt we're going to see it, but I thought I'd throw it on here. It was also just printed not long ago in Doctor Who. Price is steadily going down. I mean, if they reprinted it, you could see it hitting like $1. Again, another card that says win the game on it. This is the only copy, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, of Courageous Resolve, but only printed in Lord of the Rings. Up to 1 target creature you control gains protection from each of your opponents until end of turn. Draw a card. Fateful Hour. If you have 5 or less life, you can't lose life this turn. You can't lose the game this turn, and your opponents can't win the game this turn. Will we see it? I don't know, but it's only 20 cents. Now, the last of these cards, I'm not going to cover. They're all from like unsets or they're playtest cards, But, I mean, with the playtest card, it is just that. It means they're kind of playtesting the card. Maybe we see one of these playtest cards become an actual card. Wizards never said they wouldn't do that. So for this one, for the playtest, I will read. The player who wins the game also wins the match. Player may concede the game at any time. If the game ends while the spell is on the stack, it never resolves. Crazy sauce. Highly doubt we're going to see that one. Now I know my ABCs. Here's another one. There's just no way. You won't see this card whatsoever. If you want to read the text, it's on the screen. Just pause. Form the approach of the second sun. Form of the approach of the second sun. That just sounds scary. Approach of the second sun is scary. If you ever went up against that deck, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, this is another one of those, you win the game kind of things. When you draw yourself, you win the game. I'll just leave it on there. If you want to pause and read it, go for it. Another unset, no chance. The countdown is at 1. I'll just leave it there for a moment. Yeah, something tells me you're not going to see that. Can't do these things. This one was just fun to throw on there because it says control win condition. But again, yeah, there's no chance you're going to see this card. Here is, as luck would have it, another one of these unstable cards, unset cards, unhinged, unscrewed, unwhatever. Not going to see it. Followed by, this one's a little newer, Mystery Booster 2 playtest. Yep, this one came out not too long ago. This is a wowzer. Whenever he attacks, if you have energy, control a blood, a clue, a food, a map, a power stone, and a treasure, are the monarch, and have the city's blessing and the initiative, you win the game. Believe it or not, all those things are not that difficult to achieve. It is 5 colors, but the thing keeping it out for me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is that snow. You'd have to have snow mana. And I don't think they're going to go the snow route. It's just not going to happen. So, and I get it's a playtest card, but again, if they print it into an actual card, it could be a card. Top Deck the Halls. This is a cool card just because it's special. And 'tis the season, Top Deck the Halls. Decorated cards in your hand have Miracle. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 12 or more decorated permanents, you win the game. Interesting. Pricey card, sitting around $30. Then we have ourselves Duelist, Convocation, International. A whole lot of text there. Most likely not going to see it. But if all 10 digits are crossed out, you win the game. Something tells me they're not going to make us do other kind of sub-games within the game. So you're just not going to see Duelists. Sorry. And last but not least, the Cheese Stands Alone. Iconic card. If you control no cards in play other than the Cheese Stands Alone and have no cards in your hand, you win the game. So to wrap it up, guys, what are your thoughts? What cards do you think will be slotted into this deck? Are any of the ones I mentioned auto-includes you believe Wizards is going to throw in? What are some cards you come up with that you think are going to make the list? I want to hear about it. Thanks for watching. If you did enjoy this video, this content I'm making, if you like it, you love it, you want some more of it. I don't know. By all means, hit that like button because likes go a long way. And that could be your good deed for the day. Especially you who never likes it, I'm calling you out. It's time to hit that like button today. Skadoosh.